Please welcome Stephen Baldwin.
Hi. How y'all doing?
We're doing great. Thanks for coming out and doing this.
Well, this is this is the first time I've been to something like this in over 20 years. Wow. I did these a long time ago, and I think I was a little young. Well, listen to me, duh. Yeah, I was younger 20 years ago. Good observation, Steve. But, you know, in life, like when you're in different seasons of your life, whatever, you're mellower, you know, whatever. I just hadn't done this in a long time just because when I did it younger, it was, you know, more nerve-wracking to meet people and shake hands and take pictures. Now I'm just like, hey, let's hang out. Yeah, hey, how you doing? I'm a grandpa now, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm chilling more. So it's lovely to be here, and thank you for coming.
Have you been to Pittsburgh before? You'd remember.
I'm the youngest Baldwin brother, guys. You know, have you been to Pittsburgh? I would think that I've been here for, you know, in 35 years for some film festival, something. But not much, to be honest with you.
But welcome back if you were.
Amen. It's a lovely town, and the people are the best.
They really are. It's a great con.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you, a wide range of films throughout your career. How do you choose the roles you take on?
Well, now, I want to say mostly because I've kind of positioned myself to be out of the mainstream actor thing. Now I'm kind of moving into the writer, director, producer phase of my creativity. That just started recently with a podcast. I know everybody's doing a podcast, but I got this funny idea. I have a new podcast called One Bad Movie. And anybody heard of it? Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. 2 people. I love it. No. So One Bad Movie is a podcast I'm hosting right now where I interview actors about their bad movies.
That's brilliant.
Get it? Get it?
That's brilliant.
And it's almost an accident because I was driving in my car like a year ago and I heard this actor saying, oh, it's a great story and it's a great script and the director's the best and no, those actors are great. And I said to myself, wow, I remember when I was that guy. I remember promoting The Usual Suspects. I remember promoting Flintstone's Viva Rock Vegas, where you had to do interview after interview and say the same thing over and over again. And I'm in my car a year ago and I go, gosh, wouldn't this guy just probably love to talk about his one bad movie? You know, sarcastically and almost humorously, I just started thinking about it. So I talked to my manager, John, and my friend James and my little team, and I said, is it funny to interview people about their bad movies? And we've completed 20 interviews. We have about 6 episodes out right now on iHeart and all that, and it's on YouTube. It's called One Bad Movie. And it's been going very well, and we've done some amazing interviews. Check it out.
So yeah, let me talk a little bit about that. So do you like go through Rotten Tomatoes and try and say this would be a good one, or do agents contact you? I mean, there's so many ways to get.
Well, here's an example. The other kind of cool part about One Bad Movie, and I'm just saying it because it's what I'm doing right now, and I'm very excited. And One Bad Movie as a podcast host is going to lead to stuff that I will do as a writer, producer, director in the future because of the actors I'm working with now. The cool part about hosting my podcast is I get to interview people I never worked with, like Michael Madsen. I interviewed Michael Madsen. We talked about all of his Quentin Tarantino experiences. And I turned to him and I said, so, Michael, what's your one bad movie? And he's like, well, you know, Michael's amazing. He just growls at you like a grizzly bear. And I said to him, I have a bad movie of yours. I said, you're so known to be the nasty guy in Quentin Tarantino movies. I said, for me, your one bad movie's Free Willy.
Oh, for God.
And I'm interviewing Michael Madsen. I say that to him. He goes, oh, no, the movie's great. No, the movie's great. We had a good time, but when I met the people on Free Willy, I said, what do? Do I stab the little Willy dolphin? Do I kill the whale? Why are you calling me? You know, so that's kind of the algorithm of One Bad Movie as a podcast. I interviewed Eric Roberts. My brother Alec, I had to interview him about, his behind the scenes of, many films that he's participated in. And those interviews right now are doing very well on YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. So again, One Bad Movie is just this very abstract interview with actors, people in Hollywood, et cetera, about their one bad movie experience that leads to many, many unique behind-the-scenes stories that people are getting a kick out of.
So do you get much background before you actually do this, or do you like the surprise?
That's a great question. Well, when I interviewed my brother Alec, I had it was at my sister's house in Syracuse, New York, because my sister Elizabeth was also in the interview. It was supposed to be me and Alec interviewing my sister about what she didn't know about our movies, which is just about everything. That's why she's sister, right? And it just turned into Alec reflecting on so many of these classic movies. So now there's this retro kind of thing happening with One Bad Movie where I talked to Eric Roberts. I wanted to ask him questions about Pope of Greenwich Village. I talked to Michael Madsen, about all of his films with Quentin. So One Bad Movie accidentally is kind of turning into this kind of content of telling these stories from an actor's perspective, but from films that are maybe 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago, which a lot of young people don't know many of these stories. I'm sitting there with my brother Alec on the table. We're in Syracuse. There's a couple of these titles where I just did it for some set dressing. So, of course, my brother, it's not his podcast. It's Steven's podcast, right? And I'm interviewing, in this instance, when he's on camera and I'm not interviewing my big brother. I'm interviewing Alec Baldwin, okay? So he starts the interview, goes, I like the set dressing. I go, what? I didn't even notice them, you know what I mean? But the show's been super casual. My brother makes this comment about the set dressing, and I say to him, well, it's One Bad Movie, we're super casual here, because he has a podcast called Here's the Thing, and he's very formal on Here's the Thing. Has anybody heard that? Here's the Thing? Alec Baldwin. Only 2 people as well, so I don't feel as bad. Perfect. Okay. If you want to learn something intelligent, you listen to Alec Baldwin. You want to laugh and just have fun about movies, you listen to Stephen Baldwin. That's what I'm here to tell you.
How long have you been doing this? You say there's only 6 episodes so far?
One Bad Movie, the podcast, has been out for about 7 months.
7 months.
We're about 6 or 7 episodes into the first season, which will be 20 episodes. Oh. And again, if you just Google One Bad Movie, you'll see it's the podcast, and we have a lot of super cool, I can't tell you yet, interviews coming up.
So it's like an hour, half hour, 45 minutes, or whatever you want to do.
I could have so much fun and get in trouble right now, but I won't.
Then let's not get in trouble. Let's talk about The Usual Suspects.
Let's do it.
Yeah. How did all of that come about?
Don't let me get in trouble.
I'm not going to let you get in trouble.
Go
Scout's
ahead.
honor. I'm not a scout, but Scout's honor.
Usual Suspects, please. Go ahead.
As far as how did that ensemble cast get together? What was it like working on the set? And just so many questions. Were you when did you know you were doing an amazing film? All of those.
Okay. I'm going to be fast, but I'm going to be honest. So at the time I met Bryan Singer, I was quite a young whippersnapper trying to prove himself as a younger Baldwin brother in the acting profession. I don't know where in the timeline this is. We made the movie in 90. Gee whiz. Yeah. So Alec had already been, far along in his success. So I get this phone call from my agent saying, hey, there's this guy, and he did this thing called Apt Pupil, and, it won an award at Sundance, and, his name's Bryan Singer, and he said, it's called The Usual Suspects, and already cast is Chaz Palminteri, Kevin Spacey, and Pete Postlethwaite. And I was fans of all 3 of those people. So in my head, I'm going, I'm doing this movie. Right. Yeah. But in my creative heart, I just wanted to see what this director was going to be like. So I meet Bryan Singer. It's like an approval meeting. I sit him down. He sits me down. It's a 30-minute meeting, and for the first 20 minutes, I tell him what I'm going to do with the character. Totally true story. And Brian just like stares at me for 20 minutes. And then when I finish, he goes, "Are you done?" Like that, like literally that gently. I go, "Yeah, man, yeah. Let's do it, yeah. Say action." And he goes, on my eyeballs, Bryan Singer goes, "Here's what's going to happen. If I cast you, you're going to do exactly what I tell you to do when I tell you to do it, and you're going to stay in the script. That's rule number one. You're going to give me any take I want. He literally like holding an infant's hand just because I was so excited and I had already kind of had a vision of the character. In my sensibility, I was blurting it all out there quickly. Even though it was an approval meeting, I had to see, was he going to let me play this role I had in my head? And he could have told me to get lost. But the blessing underneath all that was he was so confident. He was so certain of his vision that it was very gratifying artistically to know I didn't have to worry. Like once he says play this guy, like between what you've come up with and what I say, and it was just really neat. So and Brian's no macho snap your neck over his knee kind of guy. He's very visionary. He's very creative. He's very visual. But that was a behind-the-scenes kind of story that I love telling it, just because when people think of Usual Suspects, they hear a lot of stories that never happened. And I always like to say that Chris McQuarrie and Bryan Singer are the guys that really are due the most credit for the success of the film.
How different was your idea than the actual character?
Totally different.
Really?
Yeah, well, yeah, because actors, hopefully, if you get the right guys, they personalize it for whatever little maniacal reason. Actors are creepy, they're weird. Everybody does their thing differently. But it's nothing different than what you do for Halloween, so to speak. Mm-hmm. That's just that magnified with greater focus and confidence. So, like I said, when they said Pete Postlethwaite at that, I was the kind of guy that studied, John Lithgow, Pete, like the guys that weren't the big, marquee names, because, some of the best actors are some of the supporting people. But Usual Suspects as an ensemble is, just a great group of acting.
Was there much camaraderie, or was it like, let's get this done, let's do a great film? Or both?
Well, kind of in the music of the experience, being in the room with all those actors at the same time. The other favorite story is, the first time Benicio spoke, is that scene in the pool hall when Postlethwaite's character shows up. And the way Brian filmed things, he'd film it in pieces. So if it was a 3-page, 4-page dialogue scene, he would only shoot like 3/4 of a page here, then move the camera. So for that scene, he shot like the master first. But he wanted to get the whole master and let Pete say all that dialogue, where he's handing out the envelopes, everyone's dossier. And I'm pretty sure it's accurate that in the scene, the first time I speak in the scene is when I'm responding to Benicio's question, what was that guy we used to do all those jobs with back in New York? That's the line on the page. And I say, Bricks Marlin. And he says, oh yeah, he was a nasty guy. Like I paraphrase. Or he was a messed up butcher. He says something like that. So this is like one of the first week of filming, but it's the first time Benicio speaks in a scene with everyone in the room. And we're rolling, and Pete comes in. It's like one of the first or second takes. He hits his mark. We get through all of it. We get to Benicio, and he goes just like this. Oh, that guy we had him down in New York. What was that guy's name we used to run jobs with back in New York? What's that guy's name in New York? And you're Benicio, I'm me. There's Brian. He's behind the monitor watching the camera, and I go just like this. I wish I was joking. I go just like this. And Brian Singer goes just like this. He looks back at me, we're rolling. And he goes, it's okay, keep going, keep going. And I go, Bricks Marlin. He's like, oh yeah, he was my motherfucker. And I won't say all the cuss words, but he says, he was a messed up FF, mother effing butcher. And he just does it in his character. And I mean, even Kevin Spacey might remember that and say, like, everybody in the room was like, what is this guy doing? It was just Benicio playing his role. And forgive me for taking so much time. It's just, I give you that detail and nuance. It's just fascinating because I literally, it didn't throw me. I just wasn't sure if I was being punked. I wasn't sure if it was a joke. But, and listen, if Benicio was here, he'd probably yell at me and correct me, but I'm pretty sure Brian said to him, over the next year, a little more clearly would help. But it was fascinating to work with that caliber of these actors, everybody doing their own thing. But for me, uniquely, it was a blessing to work, that tightly with Benicio, because then that became like a rhythm for me. You know what I mean? I had to learn kind of how Benicio was going to do his thing while I played McManus.
So that you think that actually helped shape you as an actor for the future then? Kind of like help you formulate working with other actors, kind of never knowing what to expect.
Listen, before that happened, I kind of already knew shut up and just say your lines when you're supposed to. But let's just say I learned a lesson in that moment with Benicio. No, but the lesson I learned was that, if you're going to do something, because you're going for it in your vision of the character, right or wrong, just commit. That's the kind of the difference between Hollywood then and now is, all the stuff that's being made now is, I got to be cool, you know what I mean? But contemporarily now, in the last 15 years, a lot of stuff, just because of streaming and Netflix and things like that, and just how massive these distribution pipes have become globally, you just have a lot more people who have no experience in the professional realm. The first half of my career, I worked on 35 millimeter film before digital. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, but the movie making process has changed, and that's fascinating.
Just one more question about Usual Suspects. What was the premiere like, and what was it like being in the theater watching everybody watch it for the first time with you, if that happened?
Well, yeah, no, the first, I'm pretty sure it was Sundance. The premiere, I think, was Sundance that year. The following, would that be 91? May have been January 91, or did the film come out in 90? I don't know. Someone will tell me later and correct me. But yeah, I think Sundance Film Festival was the first, because Brian, the year or two before, had done Apt Pupil. Oh, that's right. And that's where his career was kind of launched, coming out of the Sundance Film Festival. So I think, again, it's kind of like what I said when I first sat down, which is there's a difference between being at this kind of a convention at almost 59 years old and when I did the movie. So when I did the movie, I was crapping in my pants, meaning when you could think to yourself, and I'm not like some actors that are like, kind of, rigor mortis sets in with, anxiety and this, and every time I perform, I get so nervous. No, it's not about that. But you get in a room with a certain caliber of actor, it's intimidating. It's because some people are just so confident. Some people are going to, be so. Chris Penn was a dear guy that I did a couple movies with who was the kind of actor that he didn't prepare. He liked to completely be in the moment and spontaneous and this and that. And for me, you better know what you're going to say and what you're going to do, because in case somebody does a beneath you, in case he does something that kind of takes you out of your head of what you're supposed to say. And the lesson learned that you just said was, from the previous question was, I learned just say my darn line and that's it. But when we went to that premiere, the anticipation of the film, because the promos and teasers and things, and Brian and Chris McQuarrie were, just so brilliant at putting out this vision. I was nervous, I was anxious, but I just remember the reception of the film. The Usual Suspects in its day when it came out was, probably one of the most fascinating, reactionary, independent film noir dramas. And it really was due to the story and the script and the performances. I think Kevin was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Chaz, brilliant. Just everybody in the picture was great.
It's a perfect film. It really is.
Well, I would say perfect. It's pretty good.
I don't know.
I'll let you Bryan Singer's cute. Watch, can I say that? Can I say Bryan Singer is good, but Francis Ford Coppola is better? Can I say that?
Yeah, sure. I got to ask you about directing. Let me ask
you. Agree with me? Francis Ford Coppola is better. What?
There you go.
We'll have coffee.
There you go.
We'll have coffee. Bryan Singer, I love you. Just kidding. Go ahead.
So I got to ask you then, that leads to the next question. Working with different directors, do you have a different approach with different directors? I mean, obviously this thing with Brian was kind of like you do this, but working with other directors, did you really have that same kind of rapport? I mean, they're all different. Do you have a different process?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the director's kind of like the coach, or the quarterback. And I would say that just depending on what league you're in, and I don't mean that to be a jerk, just, if you can get blessed enough to make it in this business and work with certain caliber cinematographers, directors, things like that, it's super cool. And I've worked with Brian De Palma, Oliver Stone, I worked with some, super talented people. And again, that's just the thing for me is knowing how blessed I am, to have worked with that level of amazing people.
So also, you're on the other side of the camera, producing, directing, writing. Is there any of these directors that you kind of borrowed some style from, or some ideas from, as far as how to work?
Absolutely. Again, to the previous question, I haven't done, lead actor roles in mainstream Hollywood feature films in 2 decades. But that's because I've been raising kids and doing some stuff. And but I'm getting ready to kind of want to do, my own version of writer, producer, independent director, things like that, in the next 15 years, and when anybody's been asking me like what direction I'm going with all that, it's kind of like a John Hughes thing is what I'm trying to do. If I can do Breakfast Club, if I can do 16 Candles, if I can do some of these pictures that have that same vibe, but that can be relational in a sociological, social media kind of connectivity kind of way, that's what I'm like. I'm looking for more of the help me, help you, kind of movies. But yeah, that's about it. And again, like I told you, the surprise is, I'll blurt this out right now. Coming over here to do this Q&A, I think you heard me mention Mina Suvari, Shannon Elizabeth. I rode in a vehicle over here with Mina Suvari and Shannon Elizabeth. And my friend James was with me, and Sylvia, this lovely gal that's walking me around and taking care of me while I'm here, was with me. And we're just about to get in this SUV to come over, and I lean in the SUV because they go, Mr. Baldwin, go ahead, sit in the front. And I lean in the front, and there's Mina Suvari and Shannon Elizabeth. 2 folks I've never met, but I know their movies. I literally lean in. Mina Suvari's poking on her phone. She looks at me, and I go, And she goes, and I go, hi. And she goes, hi, and goes back to her phone. I turned to my team and I said, I'll be going in this SUV. I'll see you over there. Because I'm fans of these two gals. I'm a fan of these two gals. So that's really, for me, what it's all about. Everybody's different. I'm blessed to have done, these roles. The Barney Rubble thing has been so much fun for me. Fled with Lawrence Fishburne has been a blast for me. A lot of great films. I've done, Crossing the Bridge with Mike Binder's a little movie that a lot of people haven't seen. But I've had some fun and worked with some great directors. So now I'm just trying to cultivate, this whole algorithm of the love of film. The fanship, the fandom of movies is something that I've never lost. I'm kind of blessed to be able to say that. Because I just like doing it for the connectivity of it.
Yeah, it's great. We have time for just about 2 very good questions. You're cool. And I don't know if you're headed for a photo op or going back to your table, but just head back to his table.
I
If
think
he's there,
I'm
he's
going
there.
to go eat some chicken tenders or something right after this.
Okay, duly noted. Let's get 2 quick questions in. And thanks for doing this. Is really great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Baldwin, fan of your movies. I have 2 questions that kind of coincide if you let me ask them. It's about your faith.
About what?
Your faith.
May I ask?
Just don't crucify me, brother. Go right ahead.
No, I'm a follower of Jesus. So one of the things I've always wondered is what made you go from Catholicism to Christianity? Because I know there was with your wife. And then that leads me to my second question, but I was going to let you answer the first one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, what was the second one? Go ahead.
Well, the second one is, what did you think of the movie Nefarious, if you've seen it, and how it portrays?
What movie?
Have you Nefarious?
Nefarious? I don't.
Is that a film title? Nefarious?
Yes. If you haven't seen it, with the Christianity of what Satan's doing in the world today,
Oh, okay.
you
So it's
need
a
to
Christian,
watch it.
it's a
Yes.
faith-based title.
There you
Yes.
go. Okay.
I haven't seen it, brother.
I encourage you to.
And what made me switch, I was
Yes.
born into Catholicism, which is quite normal for a lot of folks. And some of my dearest friends are hardcore Catholics. And some of them are born-again Catholics, which is interesting. I'll let you Google that. I'm just born again. So what happened with me was I was born into Catholicism. I was an altar boy. I did it for like a year. And to be honest, I ain't scared to say it now. I left Catholicism just because I was such a horrible sinner. It just didn't work. Okay? But then, I was blessed to meet my wife when I was 19. And this June 10th, I married 35 years, which is pretty cool. Amen. She's crazy. Super blessing, the best part. And it's really my faith that's kept us together, and her faith and all that, Young people ask me all the time, what's your secret for staying married 35 years? I say to them, what's the most important word you got to remember to stay married 35 years? People ask me this before they get married. What's your secret? I go, my secret is, what's the one word you got to remember to stay married 35 years? And they go, love. Nope. Commitment. Nope. Cherish. Nope. Honor. Nope. I go, forgiveness. That's the most important word to remember about your spouse.
There you go.
And that's a smart one, and I learned that in my born-again faith, because the Bible just talks about knowing the Holy Spirit and knowing our Lord. So for me, it's a blessing. Thanks. Great question. I appreciate it.
And let's grab one more, and then he's either going to get chicken tenders, go back to his table, or get a photo op.
Where are we eating chicken? Oh.
Oh, there we go.
So you and your siblings, long careers. Was there a rivalry? Was there a benefit to your siblings being in the same profession? Thanksgiving dinner, did you talk about movies, or was that kind of separate?
You want to get a different question?
No, I just,
Buddy,
I
we
can't
can go
tell
wherever-
naughty Baldwin stories.
We can go wherever you want, my man.
So let me answer your question. So there's infamous Baldwin brother stories from before we were famous. And then there's kind of some known stories from after we were famous. But we're from Long Island, New York. So when we were in high school, if a policeman pulled over my brother Daniel and he didn't have his license, he'd say to him, okay, well, your tail light's out, so here's a ticket for the tail light, and your oil's low, and you got low tires over here, and all right, and just send in the paperwork and pay the fine, and everything should work out. All right, thank you, Alec. Appreciate that. Just my brother Daniel gets pulled over by the cops, and when he doesn't have his license, he goes, yeah, Alec, yeah, which it was Alexander back then. So similar scenarios were like, my brother Billy, right? Tall, handsome, he's in the movie Backdraft with Ron Howard, who's here, right? Very exciting. So you can imagine, sometimes somebody would go up to my brother Billy and say, are you Steven? And he'd be like, no, I'm Billy. He's like, yeah, my ex-girlfriend says you're Steven. So you see where I'm going with that. Yeah. You know what I mean? But to answer your question, it was much more so a help than a hindrance when we all started out, but we all were able to pretty cool carve our own little niche as far as careers. I think that's the age difference. But Alec has kind of ruled the roost, so to speak. He's super talented, and he was the first one out of the gate. But it's been a blessing for all of us, to work in this industry and make some great titles that people have enjoyed.
That's awesome.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Stephen Baldwin. I'll take that from you. Give it up. He's here all day, hanging out. Gotta love him. And check out One Bad Movie, please.